I suggest that you become obsessed about the things you want. Otherwise, you are going to spend the rest of your life being obsessed with making up excuses as to why you didn't get the life you wanted. Hey, champions, welcome to another podcast episode of Champion Reads, the podcast where we talk about best-selling books by best-selling authors and the principles within. My name is William Blake. Today we are joined by our founder of Champion Circle, John Kovacs Jr., as well as Miss Lauren Cobb. Today we're going to go over another part of Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. So let's just jump straight into it because we're going to talk today about how to create an obsessed team, as well as over deliver. I said that wrong. What's it? Overpromise, over deliver. There we go. Let's jump into it. And first off, just to throw it out to you wonderful people, I want to ask for your insights about when you read this in the book, and as you think about that principle of building an obsessed team, what were some of your insights that you got from it?
I'll jump in and just share, this concept of being obsessed is literally my mantra, because that is the only way I have ever achieved greater heights. And the book is about aiming higher and working harder and living just a little bit bigger than where you're at, which is incredibly insightful and has a lot of really cool anecdotal evidences, but it also creates just a realistic, applicable implementation plan for you if you'd like to do so. And I appreciate that. I like the linear applications. I like the information. I first started loving the word obsessed. I can't remember if it was influenced by Grant Cardone or if I just saw it one day in a quote and I thought, that's Napoleon Hill's word of desire. And I know Napoleon Hill talks about it in Think and Grow Rich, but the book argues that being obsessed with success is the key to overcoming any obstacle and achieving great things. So I love the concept. And if you've never read a book by Grant Cardone, there's actually a really great story about the 5 bestsellers that he has in his library. And he wrote them in a very short amount of time because of this concept, be obsessed or be average. And at the time, his obsession was, I need to be a better authority figure in the space of achievements, goals, and finances. So he set a goal to write 5 books in record timing. And not only did he write 5 books in record timing, he also hit the top seller lists of the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and all that stuff with very little to work off of. And by the way, I have one of the original copies of one of his books, like 10x, the 10x rule, and there are literally typos in the book because they just rushed the job. They were like, let's just get her done because we got to meet the deadline, and they did. And obviously new versions and updates have come out and there are better versions of it, but even then it was like, it doesn't matter. I became a #1 bestseller. I became an authority figure. I used my knowledge to become who I am. I was obsessed. And if I hadn't done that, I'd still be writing my other 5 books. And guess what? You're basic, you're average, right? You just don't get to the place you want to go if you don't have obsessions. And there are healthy obsessions and there are obsessions that we need to work with, maybe potentially counseling or whatever, which we highly recommend. It's a very, very powerful concept. But all that being said, my impressions of the book so far have been just in alignment with my mantra, who I am. And again, going back to the concept, if you've never picked up a book by Grant Cardone, they're always a good read, and it's a reading level that helps you fly through it. So if you like self-help books that really, I don't know, easier to read but applicable, this is one you definitely want. It's not a deep read like Deepak Chopra, but it's definitely one that takes you to the notebooks of writing things down and creating plans yourself. So there you go.
Yeah, that it's such a crazy concept. I'm with you. The first time I learned, like I've read Be Obsessed, the only thing that came to my mind was addiction, right?
Mhm.
It's the be obsessed about the bad things, drinking, pornography, drugs, like the bad things that we get into. Those are extreme examples, but even the daily ones of not brushing our teeth and being lazy, sitting on the couch, binging our Netflix shows, like those are like we're obsessed with doing them. And I didn't realize like obsession can be good when you use it for a good thing.
Yeah.
And it helped lead me down this rabbit hole of everything can be good. It's just what humans do to it that changes it, right? You can have a beautiful relationship with your spouse, but when you add in like things like, and I'm thinking of pornography right now, but when you add in like the lustful side, it destroys. But when you're able to truly love and love that, like your spouse, like it creates a beautiful thing. And so, like us as humans, it's just like, are you going to love or are you going to lust? And there's so many different examples besides, the love and lust aspect. But it's that obsession of we get to choose. We get to choose with what we are obsessed with. It might be hard because we have some bad habits that we need to overcome, but in all, like over time, consistent action and everything, we can be obsessed with good things. And Grant Cardone is a great example of someone who at 25 was doing drugs, was like at the bottom of the barrel, then just started being obsessed with sales, killed it in the car industry, and now is like one of the top experts in the sales enterprise. So obsession can be good. We just got to choose our obsessions wisely.
I love that. And he talks about in there that like no two people have the same definition of success. So therefore, you cannot have somebody else's obsession. So you have to find like it could be the same goal of like a lot of us are authors here. We all want to write a book. We all want to do those things, but we have to obsess in it in our own way to find those achievements. Because I don't obsess of it like John obsesses of it or you obsess of it. And so it has to be your own obsession in order for you to reach that success.
I love that. I wanted to add to that, Lauren, because a desire in Napoleon Hill's terms is so unique to you because yes, we may want the same thing, but the reasons, the whys, and the literally like the deepest, darkest reasons behind that desire are so uniquely ingrained with our own DNA and our existence in history. It's possible that our obsessions are tied to a deprivation of certain things, qualities, and values. But on a positive side, our desires and obsessions might be connected to something that inspires, that gives us incredible energy. It's an attraction, and that's literally what Bob Proctor talks about in a lot of his stuff with words become things and the law of attraction. And I had the recent opportunity, guys, to learn from a great person in that space, and his name is Dr. Joe Vitale. In fact, I think I have a book by his, and I know we're talking about Grant Cardone's book, but I tend to bring in more books. It's called Zero Limits Living, and it's all about attracting what you want. But those obsessions are directly tied to what Lauren just said. We have our own reasons, and that's what makes it its own living DNA. Because uh, Willie and I both want to geek out and spend an afternoon eating popcorn and watching some anime and talking about the cool stuff of our 90s throwbacks, right? But his reasons are different than mine, because although we like it, I'm in it for maybe a storyline, and he's probably in it because of the nostalgia and how it makes him feel unstoppable, like superhero like, and whatever it might be.
All right.
You got it. Yeah. So I love that, Lauren. Thank you for kind of bringing that up, because again, don't ever think that just because you want something means that you want it and other people want the same thing. It's unique to you. Your obsessions have let's give them a serial number. Your obsessions are so unique to you that they are original, and that's why they're important. You've ever heard the phrase like your dreams matter, like your goals matter? They do. It's because they're unique thoughts. And Willie and I have a favorite quote out of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I know we're getting back into Grant Cardone, but it's I have to always look over my shoulder to get it right, but it's be definite in everything you do, never leave unfinished thoughts in the mind. And that's just an incredible reminder that our obsessions, if we are truly obsessed, we can't leave it alone. It must happen.
Well, and that goes along with we each, our DNA is different, like you said. We are driven in different ways, but a lot of it is what you're feeding your brain as to what will drive you, like Willie was talking about. Make it a good obsession. We can all want something good, but some people we know take shortcuts. We know try to, take the easy way out to get the same result, but it's because they haven't found their obsession and they haven't found what actually drives them. And so they're just wanting the end result, because we find so much success in the journey as well and fulfillment to reach the obsession, right? And all of our DNA is different, but I keep thinking too back to Think and Grow Rich, because that's what we teach from mostly. But it's true. Like, we each have our own desire. If we're trying to live somebody else's dream, it's not going to work. You have to find your own reason why. And we've talked about this in our masterminds recently too. Like, why have we not achieved the goal that we've set, right? If we haven't gotten there, why? And a lot of it is drive. You haven't found that drive, and you haven't found the obsession and the why. And so digging deep, you've got to find that out to achieve anything that you really desire.
I agree. You got to take a lot of time to figure it out for yourself, because once you do, that's where the cool stories come from. That's where the cool experiences and the principles and tips and tactics that we talk about, like, that's where the coolest ones come from. I remember back in 2019, I believe, maybe 2020. No, 2021. Just spewing out every year. At the end of the year, we went to my in-laws for Christmas, and this was back when I didn't have my first draft of my book written, and I'd written about 20,000 words in it, and it took me like a year and a half just to get that amount. And so I had this desire, because I wanted to be my own author, and I wanted my own name on the book. I wanted it to be mine. Wanted it ever since I was a little kid. And as I was driving up with my wife, I told her that I wanted to get this done. She says, okay. I love my wife. She's like, okay, get it done. Like, what are you waiting for? And I was like, okay, what would be a good spot for me just to see I completed my first draft? It would be about 50,000 words, which was more than double what I had. And so I made a commitment. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then all the problems came up. Just like, Willie, you're going to be spending time at your in-laws during the holidays, Christmas, New Year, and everything. When are you going to have time? There's so many events. Then my brain, because I committed to it, started working on how do I do it. And that was the obsession coming out. And it came to, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, no matter when I go to sleep, so I can get an hour or two in before everyone else wakes up. And I'll tell you, the first day was easy, second day was easy, third day was hard. Every other day after that was hard. But I can tell you this, that after those 13 days, I hit that 45, 46,000 word first draft. And I was excited. I was ecstatic. And it came up with this cool principle that I called my 13-day goal sprint. Still working on the name, but it's like in 13 days, you can get further than you do in a year and a half. And so, like you were saying, Lauren, it really comes from inside of us because when we commit to ourselves, we come up with the unique way that we need to in order to get the thing done. And then that's where the amazing success stories come from. That's where the inspiration and the motivation for others come. Not from living someone else's dream and doing what they do, even though it's good to have a plan and to follow mentorship and that. But when it comes from inside yourself, it's crazy what you can do.
Yeah. It's like our superpower. We find it and it just can't stop you.
Can't stop this, do.
Yeah.
John, you look like you're about to say something.
I actually wasn't, but I was
Oh,
just
okay.
I was sort of in a pondering moment there while you were sharing, and yeah, I love this concept because it it just reminds me of my commitments to myself, and whether
Yep.
it's how I want to perform or what exactly I want and desire. It's giving me an abundance of ideas and thoughts, and so I'll chime in just a minute.
Yeah, no worries. You just sound like it. I wanted to give you the opportunity. It's wrapping this over to building that obsessed team. I think we're nailing a good couple principles on the head. The first one being if you want an obsessed team, first off, you got to be obsessed. It got to come from you. It has to be like your vision to go out and have a team, or build the team towards that passion or goal. The second principle would fall under the individuals you have on your team need to be obsessed about that thing. Like as a champion team, John's the wonderful founder who just has that vision and passion. Lauren keeps us all straight and so great at organizing. Me, I love everything social media and everything like visual and that. Like each of us have our own strengths, and although all of us can really do any aspect of the team, we all come together with our own obsessions. And it's in those moments that we focus on our strength of strengths that we become that champion team. And I think as and then a third one, as we want to go out and find more individuals like that, you can really tell simply by talking with someone where their obsessions lie. Because I'll tell you what, when John, I don't know if you remember, but back when we first met, like I was obsessed with just learning and taking information, just action go getter. And I'm sure that you saw that. And that's probably why we're still friends today after several years from that. But you can see during those, and I saw that from you. Like I saw you as that go getter, just going out and just crushing it and wanting a bigger vision for yourself. You can see that in other individuals just by talking with them. So when building that obsessed team, to start talking to people and start talking about the things that you need, and you'll quickly realize that there are people out there obsessed about that thing. We just got to socialize. We just got to talk a little bit more. Lauren, you're muted.
As John would say, rookie mistake. uh we all have a same desire. We all love leadership. We all love growing a business. We all love teaching. And those things are all common, but definitely we are all driven by something different, you know. And like you said, we can do every part of this team. John could have done this all by himself, right? We didn't want to because he wants to focus on what he absolutely loves. And so we all bring that, what we love, to the team, and it just makes a whole, right? And we're able to perform better as a team because we're not scattered doing everything alone.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. There's an African proverb that I overuse and abuse, but it is if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. And I think that's what the concept of build an obsessed team means. It doesn't necessarily mean just a team and people working around you. Like Lauren said, people who are aligned in the same vision and direction. You know, uh, I also think it means who you surround yourself with. At Champion Circle, we pride ourselves on surrounding ourselves with people who know how to use mastermind methodologies and follow up through accountability and give themselves the best bet for achieving their goals at accelerated rates. And that's something that we surround ourselves with. And the more we put ourselves in that place, then we become more acquainted with the successes that we want. You know, it's like my story about first joining a mastermind. I couldn't afford it, and it was something that I valued because there were some really cool cats in the room who were all doing some really amazing things, and so I did whatever it took. You know, I worked side jobs. I delivered pizzas. I did whatever I had to do to be able to pay my bills and to maintain a status in a mastermind so that I could also achieve my goals. And it changed my life. And surrounding myself with those people not only elevated me to a greater level of thinking, but it helped me obsess over the global vision that we've become and have inherited through the mission of Champion Circle. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is it's better to go with people than it is to go alone.
Mm. There's always those moments where where you guys end on like a powerhouse quote, and I have to sit here and absorb it because it was so good. And John, you just left that for me to sit and ponder on.
Where's our bomb, our truth bomb?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
As John
No, but
would
it's
say,
true. These
rookie
are,
mistake.
yeah, these are principles that, like, we're learning obviously take you farther. And that's why we become so passionate and they hit so hard, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and what both of you are nailing down is someone who thinks bigger than themselves are thinking about personal growth. Like that's an area that I don't think Grant Cardone like specifically says personal growth. That's where you got to hit. But but that's really what he aims at, because if you're not working on yourself, what else is going to happen, right? How can you control a life if a life is controlling you?
Yeah.
There's just no way that you can do it. And when you're able to be able to figure out what your strengths are, double down on those. When you're able to focus on what your lesser strengths are, your weaknesses are, and be able to minimize the mistakes, accidents. I'm trying to figure out what the word is. When you're able to handle those as well, then you take the good with the bad. You start to love yourself more. You start to realize that the world is bigger than just yourself, and all the influencers, all the gurus, all the high achievers and champions that we speak about, they're the ones who are out there serving, not just to make money, but they know that money is the tool to help serve more people. So people like Grant Cardone, people like Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, John, you mentioned Bob Proctor. Like each of these individuals are out there crushing their own individual fields because they want to serve. And you can see it in your eyes, in their eyes, and that obsession that they have. You can tell when someone's obsessed about a selfish reason versus obsessed about a bigger reason than themselves. And those high achievers, those champions, you can see it in their eyes. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's a transformation in people's eyes when they would just want to serve rather than being served.
Totally.
In the world of dating, I know that a quality that most people like in or are attracted in others is somebody who has purpose, mission. What's the word I'm looking for? They're motivated. There's a term. I'm not. It's not coming to mind, but somebody who values sort of like goals and goal oriented. No, that's not the word. Anyways, I can't remember, but driven. Yeah. If they're driven. And that's like a quality people are attracted to. And the reason why is, like you just said, Willie, it's a physical change. Like, you can tell if somebody is unmotivated and not driven versus somebody who is driven. They just have a different countenance about them. You can definitely see and discern, but it's not just a feeling, it's an appearance. It's a physical biological change in them. And you're right, there is something that happens to their eyes. There is something to their skin, their face, their body, their posture, their total countenance. And that's something that a lot of people are missing in this world. They become content. And when you're content, you tend to sit back, everything's good. I with a healthy balance, of course, I tend to relate to Alexander Hamilton, and then in the musical Hamilton, he sings a song about never being satisfied, and I relate to that because, again, results are results, and you can be happy with them, but if you put on the lab coat and start playing with the petri dishes of your words, your actions, your results, you can always find improvement, and you'll find greater satisfaction in always seeking for the next. And it's really interesting because I've had debates on that with other people, but it all comes down to being driven, and that desire or that obsession is what changes you. So now we're bringing in some of the Deepak Chopra stuff, because it is your truest desires that really transform you. And I think that in what Grant Cardone has done here is he has shared that principle with some really modern day takes on it, and putting the obsession spin over what's really happening. So
Yeah. That reminds me, when I was in high school, I was at this convention down in St. George, and this guy came up to me. I talked about something with leadership, and afterwards he comes up to me, and I thought he was really creepy at the time. But he was like, "There is something about you, your aura." And he's like telling me the color of my aura and all this, and he's like, "It's special. Like, you don't see it in the kids your age these days." And just kept going off, and I was like, "This is so creepy." But then as I got older and I think back on that, I was like, I was different than most kids my age, right? Like, I knew that. That's why I was doing what I was doing in leadership. But I was like, okay, he saw those things, right? Like, I understand now being able to feel somebody's energy and things like that. And I look back and I'm like, I don't ever want to lose that. Like, that was actually a really special compliment. And then I just thought he was a creepy old man because I was like 15, 16. But yeah, it's like you see that in people and it rubs off on people. And so it's something to take serious, and helps us keep our passion and our drive to keep going. And meeting other people who have that same. That's why we all attract each other. That's why we have a team we have, right? Like, it's why we're here.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We're all attracted to the vision and goal. As we wrap our thoughts up with our final insights, what comes to my mind is thinking about the champions who are listening. For you champions who are listening, as we talked about being obsessed, not being average, obsessing about your dream and passion, finding a team, finding those individuals who can be obsessed with you, with your passion and goal, and that you can see it really in their eyes, the way that they talk. It all boils down to a single thing of, if you think it, you can achieve it. One of my favorite quotes is, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And as we think about as we become champions and legends in our own stories and in our own lives, we think the obsessed, the ones who are getting at it, think that they can, and the average think that they can't. And because of that, the brains of the average will think, what excuses can I come up with that'll separate me from where I'm at to where I want to be? And the people who are going at it, the people who are really achieving what they want, they bridge the gap between what they want and what they're going to achieve. And that comes from thinking that they can. I'd love to hear both of your final thoughts about this.
I love that quote by Henry Ford, and yeah, I think that when you surround yourself with the people who are running in the same direction, as a moved on and retired track and field athlete. I'm always looking for the best way to say that, other than ex-athlete, is that um, during my training, I would have to go on long distance runs, and I hate long distance runs, but you do it to build your stamina, you build your lung capacity, your ability to do stuff. And there was this unspoken tradition of the group. As we were running back to the track, we would round the corner and there would be this, I guess, long stretch of pavement before you hit the grass. And we all knew that as soon as you hit the grass, it was the finish line, the invisible finish line. And even though we were supposed to be doing a pace or a particular type of jog that day, or maybe we had to do it in under certain minutes, it didn't matter, because once we got to that final stretch, we all knew that we sprint. And it became who we were. It was, no matter where you were at, even if you were like a mile behind everyone and running by yourself, you knew that everyone else would sprint at the last runway. And again, you practice like you play. You do what you do in practice is also what you do on the track. And so, wrapping this up is, we had this expectation that we would always sprint to the finish line. And you want to surround yourself with people, a team of people who have the same expectations. And you don't even have to look at each other. You just know, hey, it's sprint time. Together we're in this, and you do it, and it's going to hurt, but it's going to be so much fun. And you're going to lay on the grass and look in the sky and giggle a little bit as you catch your breath and say, I love where I'm at. I love what I'm doing. And that's the desires that you should develop as you obsess with the right people over the right things.
I love that. I would also just say that getting the right team and people around me, like not only his champion circle evolved and become amazing from, I mean, it was amazing when we started, but what we've come to now is totally different than what we began with. But it's amazing. Like we've evolved together when we brought this team, you know, but as well as in my personal life, if I've put people in my life on purpose, and it's definitely helped me advance in my life way farther than I thought I could, in the last few years. So you can't go alone in it. If you have your team that you're all on the same path and encouraging each other, you really can do anything.
Well said. And that wraps up another episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on all the major podcast channels, as well as send us a message about what you're obsessed with and who you're looking for. You can find us on our socials and other links through our website, mychampioncircle.com. And until next time, champions, continue to be awesome. Continue to strive for what you're going for and be obsessed about it. And always remember, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. We'll see you on the next episode, champions.